Hi everybody, thank you for clicking on today's video. If you are new to my channel, thank you for being here. I post videos every single Wednesday on the lesser known missing person cases that need more exposure and have not received a whole lot of media attention. I mean, absolutely no harm in doing these videos. I am simply trying to spread awareness, and if you would like to support me, please consider giving this video a like and hitting that subscribe button. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone that has recently subscribed to my channel. The more people that watch, the better the chances of these cases getting solved. With that being said, let's dive right into today's case. Terry Lynn Pendergraft Tersak grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. She was the daughter of Thomas and Lynn Pendergraft. Sadly, in 1991, Terry lost her mother to cancer. I can't imagine what kind of effect that had on her. It had to be absolutely devastating. If I did the math correctly, she would have been around 15 at the time of her mother's death, and I'm sure she had a lot of struggles afterward. She did drop out of high school in 10th grade, but did go on to get her GED and do some advocacy work. Her friends and family have described her as being very kind and gentle and soft-spoken, and she absolutely loved children. And as you can see from her pictures, she was absolutely gorgeous. In 2000, Terry met her husband, Stephen Tersak, and he is quite a bit older than her. I believe he's around 21 years older. And once they got together, Terry lost a lot of contact with a lot of friends and family. And she would go on to have a child with Stephen, a little boy named Xander. And Xander was autistic. Terry did enjoy smoking a little bit of weed, and she would have a beer or two on occasion, but she was far from being any kind of drug addict. Terry had worked in a strip club for a time because apparently her husband wasn't bringing any money in and she had to find a way to support her family. So she did strip for a while, but she hadn't done so for about a year prior to her disappearance. In 2009, Terry's marriage to Stephen was not going well. She had confided in family that he was abusive and controlling, and that she was very scared of him and she wanted out. Terry was obviously very smart, and she was the type of person, in my opinion, to make sure that if anything were to ever happen to her, that somebody was going to go down for it. She made plans for a letter that she had written, as well as copies of threatening emails she had received, to get into the hands of law enforcement were anything to happen to her. You know, whether she go missing or found killed or anything like that, she wanted to make sure that these documents got to the police. Now, I do not know the exact date of the night or the day that Terry went missing, because I've seen it reported as different days. June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd. I think I even saw it June 5th somewhere. So we're just going to say June 2009. Terry called her cousin Jamie to let her know that she and Xander would be making the 250-mile trip to Gardner, South Carolina for a visit. While they were on the phone, Jamie could tell something was wrong, and she asked Terry if she was okay. And Terry, was still trying to sound happy and said, "No, but I'll talk to you when I get there." But Terry wouldn't show up in Gardner. Terry would never be seen by her family again. Now, when Terry did not show up in Gardner, her family, didn't think it was that odd, apparently, because since she had gotten with Stephen, she had been somewhat estranged from them, and it wasn't peculiar or strange at all for her to not see her family for months at a time. Her husband, Stephen, claims to have been at home that night and that he overheard the conversation with Jamie and Terry. He said that Terry did not leave that night, but she did leave the next day without her son, and she caught a ride with a girl named Jen that was going to give her a ride. He claims that Terry asked him to pick her up at a residence in Clayton, North Carolina on June 20th, which would have been the day before Father's Day. But he said that the address was fake and it didn't exist. He also says that when he returned home, he went to check on their storage unit that he and Terry shared, and that it had been completely emptied out. And a couple of things that had been taken were their computers. That's convenient. When Terry left, she did not take her SUV with her. Now, this wasn't a vehicle that her husband had purchased for her and that she, maybe thought she couldn't take. She had purchased this SUV herself with money that was left to her from her grandmother. And shortly after she disappeared, her husband traded her car in and got a vehicle for himself. Now, Stephan claims to have seen Terry again in October of 2009 when she supposedly showed up at a new apartment that he had gotten for him and his son, and that she was there briefly, talked for a moment, said she had been living in the town of Boone, and then she left, and he says he's never seen her since. Stephan never reported her missing. Instead, he told people that she was a drug addict and was stripping here and stripping there, and that she had left because she couldn't handle the pressures of being the mother of an autistic son. He told his family in Pennsylvania that Terry had died from cancer. Not only did he trade in the car that belonged to his wife, but he took his son and moved to Austin, Texas. Now, this would have been just a few months after supposedly the last time she was seen. Over the next couple of years, Terry's family and Stephan would exchange some emails, and while I don't know exactly what these emails said, the family has stated that the context of these emails led them to believe that Stephan and Terry were together in Texas. But the family had not heard from Terry herself in 2 years. Obviously, her dad was starting to get worried. At first, Terry's father, Thomas, thought that maybe Terry had left and was trying to hide out from bill collectors, but as so much time went by, he was starting to get very worried. He finally sent an email to Stephan saying that if he did not hear from his daughter within 2 weeks, that he would be reporting her missing. He just wanted to hear her voice. He just wanted to make sure that she was okay. Terry never called, and finally a missing persons report was filed with the Asheville Police Department in May of 2011. 2 years is a very long time, and it's plenty of time for someone to hide evidence or destroy evidence, and I'm not sure what all the police are doing, but from what I could find, they're really not doing much. They haven't really been interviewing anyone. I think they have only talked to Stephan over the phone. They haven't interviewed any of Stephan and Terry's neighbors at the time, and they've been having a hard time finding anyone in Asheville that was friends with her, and I believe that's because she was living in a home where she was being controlled, and she probably wasn't allowed to have very many friends. So here's where it gets kind of messy. Her husband doesn't really speak highly of her. Normally when people go missing, loved ones just tell all the good things about them. They don't bash them. They want people to think this person is just incredibly amazing and wonderful, so they'll look for them. They don't tell them the bad things. But her husband has made an entire website, and he kind of, I guess, acts like he's trying to look for her, but then he'll throw in little stabs and jabs at her, just saying not very nice things. And he also spends a lot of time on this website talking about himself and defending himself, and he talks about himself in third person. It's weird. It's just really weird. He talks about how stripping was her preferred occupation, and that she was a drug addict and she needed to go to rehabilitation and she couldn't handle their son, all of which her family and friends say is absolutely not true. And he spends most of his time on the website defending himself and throwing accusations at her family. I know he questions them and says, "Why did you wait 2 years to report her missing?" Dude, you're her husband. You didn't report her missing either, and you didn't even tell her family she was missing. And like I said, I haven't read the emails, but he made it sound like Terry was with him. He may be completely innocent. He may have had no involvement in her disappearance, but he's not making himself look very good. I could not find any reports of the home being searched, the home that she and Stefan lived in Asheville while they were together. I would hope the police would search it, even though it had been 2 years when she was reported missing. Now it's been 11 years. There could still be evidence there. There could have still been evidence in his car. I doubt he still has the same car now, but after 2 years he may have. I had to look it up because I wasn't sure. I wanted to know like how long DNA could, you know, still be read and still be found. 6.8 million years. I looked it up. It lasts 6.8 million years at a crime scene, so it's obviously not easy to get rid of. I really think that home should be checked. I really couldn't find much evidence of any searches or much that the police are doing. Her case is cold, and the police told the family that they were following leads. I could only find a couple of news reports on it, but it just seems like nothing is being done. All that's really happening and has been happening for a while is Stefan and her family and friends kind of bickering back and forth. And I don't mean that mean, but if you visit, you know, the Facebook pages and his website and some other articles that I found online, in the comments and stuff, they're just all fighting back and forth, and that doesn't help find Terry. I couldn't find any information on what was done, if anything, with the handwritten letter and email copies police received from Terry. DNA samples from her father and her brother have been collected so that they can be matched with remains if she is deceased and her body is found. At the time of her disappearance, Terry was 5'1" and about 95 pounds. She has blue eyes and her hair is naturally brown, but she typically dyes it a deep auburn color. She has no tattoos, but does have her navel pierced. Her husband has done some shady stuff, like a lot of shady stuff since her disappearance, and I won't get into all of it right now because it doesn't all pertain to her case. But one thing that I find very telling is that he told his family in Pennsylvania that Terry died from cancer. He also likes to make a lot of fake accounts under different names and different pictures, and he had gotten on some forums pretending to be Terry, and I think he used 3 different names. But he was pretending to be her, and this was after she disappeared, and he was caught doing it. He also likes to create fake profiles and fake names and get on there and defend himself as other people. So I may get some of those comments on this video. We'll see. What do you think happened to Terry? Do you think she left on her own? Do you think, you know, what Stefan said is true, that she couldn't handle having a special needs child and she wanted out, so she just left? Or do you think Stefan knew that she wanted to leave and it was a case of, well, if I can't have you, no one can, and so he got rid of her? But if she left on her own and abandoned her family, why didn't he just tell her family that at the beginning when she left? Why did he send emails making it, you know, trying to make it look like Terry and he were in Texas with Xander? Did she really leave, you know, with a woman named Jen and go off and something else happened to her? I don't believe that police have ever been able to find this Jen lady that supposedly picked her up and gave her a ride, but I could not find anything on that either. Terry was a very tiny woman. I mean, she was, you know, 5'1" and under 100 pounds. She was little, and she could have easily been overpowered. And if she planned to abandon her family, why wouldn't she take her car? Why would you just leave the car that you paid for? You know, it's yours. Take it. It's a very strange case. It's a very sad case. I mean, there's family and friends that miss her dearly, and they just want to know what happened to her. They want some answers, you know, and I hope someday they get them. I do feel like the 2 years that went by without her being reported missing were very, very harmful to this case. Yes, evidence can still be found, but it's less likely. I mean, 2 years. I mean, that's a crazy amount of time for no one to realize that someone is gone. If you have any information on Terry Tersak's disappearance or her location, please contact the Asheville Police Department at 828-259-5945. Please keep Terry's story out there by sharing her flyer, sharing this video, and sharing her story. I will link the family's Facebook page in the description box if you would like to go to the site and show the family some support and let them know that Terry has not been forgotten. Thank you all so much for watching. If you would like to check out my entire missing playlist, I am putting it up on the screen right now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and I will see you next time. Bye.